All right, everybody, welcome again to the Prepper Trifecta. Might just be two tonight, but we've sent the email out to a couple of people who've been on the show in the past, like JJ and Morgan from Road Preparedness, so they might drop in, maybe not, but welcome once again. If you have questions, put them in the chat in all caps or with a super chat, so we're sure to see them. We've been getting quite a bit of action in the chat lately, so in the past few times, which is awesome, but it also makes it harder to see the questions. So if we've gone a little ways, 15 minutes or something, and didn't address your question, probably post it again. But how you doing, Che?
Good. I think we have to have like a buy and sell, maybe like a classified section in the chats.
Yeah,
Like the
for trading
chat.
and gear and everything.
Yeah,
like
it's definitely taken off, and people seem to be in their own little world. The same.
Yeah, talking
same
about other
regulars.
issues. Yeah, they just split off and do their own thing, which is fine with me. But it does make it harder to see any questions directed at us. So if you have those, make them obvious, not too crazy.
Yes, all caps, please. I'm good. Good
deal. You guys haven't had too much of the riots and stuff like we have here, have you? No big cities in Canada really yet.
What do we have the other day? So obviously the incident with Jacob, for those that aren't familiar, is a black man that was shot by cops. It's unfortunate. It's never a nice thing to hear anybody getting shot by anybody, but he was shot in the back. I think it was 7 times. He's paralyzed. It's sad. So we had some riots here as a result. Nothing crazy. Okay. It's magic crazy, but nothing is serious. The worst that happened, and I find it odd that people are trying to defend it, is in Quebec, which is a province just north of me, north of Ontario. They took down a statue of Sir John A. Macdonald, which is our first prime minister. So I guess it would be 1867. And I don't know, like there's not like a real bad thing about him. You can't say, oh, he did. I'm sure there people can dig something up, but it wasn't like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming I'm assuming he's just white, and then it's just part of what they perceive to be the power structure. That's it.
It's just a white guy. You're like, oh,
right. It's like
now we're going
Canadian.
After the white guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like his hair.
Right. Yeah. Look at that smirk.
Obviously, not the case in the States. Canada is a lot more mild. So that's the craziness we've seen in this week, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of rioting. What have you seen down there?
Yeah, well, obviously in Kenosha, Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where that shooting took place. That's where everything's really popped off. And it's continued in Portland specifically and DC. Other than those couple specific places, I don't think that there's a huge element of rioting widespread across the country, at least not yet. It's certainly possible, could happen at any time, and probably will continue to get worse. But for the most part, it does seem to be kind of, confined to those areas in the major events anyways. But I mean, Kenosha, Wisconsin is kind of a random city, like who would have ever heard of that before these events, so it's not like a Chicago or even a Portland or whatever. Yeah. So it shows that it can happen anywhere. You know what I mean? Which is pretty interesting.
For sure. And speaking of which, what's your take on? I guess it's November 3rd, big important day coming up. If would you agree that most of the riots or the nature of the riots that are happening in the States right now are from people on the left?
It certainly appears that way. Yeah, so obviously conflict, like when there's fights and whatnot, takes two to tango, as they say. But so they have to at least be there, regardless of who's starting these altercations. There has to at least be two sides there. But in terms of the actual burning, the looting, it's pretty obvious that that's being done by people who are mostly on one side of the political spectrum. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Now, with that said, how do you think that's going to affect your election in November?
I mean, it's going to get significantly worse after. Like I think I've mentioned before, I think we're going to either see like celebratory riots or angry riots afterwards. You know what I mean? Whether Biden wins or loses, I think it's going to get significantly worse leading up to and especially after the election, for sure.
Celebration riots, yeah.
Yeah, like if Biden were to win, I think it'll be like ha in your face kind of thing, and everyone will spaz out and riot. And also we have a couple other events that could cause more riots, like when police officers in any of these cases either get convicted or go free. And when Kyle Rittenhouse was the kid from the Kenosha riots who ended up like capping off a couple commies when he either gets convicted or goes free. All those events are going to be, potential for riots too as a result.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm curious as to the social pressures. My understanding is it was one officer that shot this gentleman, Jacob, 7 times in the back. There's 2 other officers present that didn't really have anything to do with the shooting, yet they got charged.
Right.
And it's almost like it's almost like the judicial system is in some respects trying to appease
they did the same
masses.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the George Floyd case. There was another officer who was just standing there for the most part, and he was also rolled up somehow in those charges, which is interesting. Regardless of whether you think the offending officers or the ones at the center of the case were right or wrong, it's interesting that the guys standing there were rolled up, because even if you think that this cop did something wrong and that they were just there for it and I should have stopped it, there's been Supreme Court cases that have already shown that the police don't have a legal duty to prevent crime. So to me, that would extend to even if it's another police officer that you're perpetrating a crime. Yeah, because obviously for obvious technical or pragmatic reasons, if you say police have an obvious duty to prevent crime, then they're liable anytime a crime happens, really. You know what I mean? So it's kind of obvious in a general sense that they can't be responsible for stopping crime, but it also leads to situations where they can just stand there and do nothing, like some of these school shootings, and then get off for it. Like literally they just won't go in because they're scared or something. Yeah. And then it's okay because of these Supreme Court cases. So I see the general idea and it makes sense, but it leads to stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you think
they're completely unaccountable for just nothing. Yeah.
Sure. Where this guy, he's going to go through the ranks, and if it goes right to the top, is it going to be a court decision to be in these specific issues? If an officer is using excessive force to detain a suspect and he has the potential to die, are you now liable or not if you don't take out?
Are other officers going to be all worried now that not only what they do, but if they don't do the right things when some other officer's doing something, they could be. And it's usually
the opposite, though.
Right. Yeah.
Where it could be the opposite. That's like, oh, you're not liable at all. And they could be like, and I think guys on the ground.
Right. Basically, that's what I think, based on the fact that there have been similar kind of cases, that's literally what the courts have ruled, is that you're not necessarily responsible. There's no like Good Samaritan laws, and that's like really for cops, that extends to them being responsible to prevent some misdeed necessarily. So interesting. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't. Yeah, I see Mark Chase saying it's difficult to get any murder convictions in the George Floyd case. Yeah, because regardless of the other facts of the case, which I think would be difficult anyway, being as it appears that it's literally what they train the officers to do. So that would push the liability off onto the state if there is any. They've shown that he had incredibly high levels of multiple drugs in his system and may have even overdosed anyway, even without any outside.
I thought it was
like fentanyl and other things.
I thought it was his neck that was the reason for the death. So he had drugs in the system.
Yeah.
And now they're saying Floyd it's an overdose.
Right. Or it would have been like that may have contributed kind of in the way coronavirus. Like if you're going to be struggling to survive and someone kneels on your neck, it's not going to help the case for that matter.
Yeah.
But that it probably wouldn't have killed him otherwise. And with that being said, I don't like that case. I really think but this guy was obviously basically passed out and the guy stayed kneeling on his neck for like minutes. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? But I do think he'll get off legally.
That'll be an interesting day when that happens. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Evil Blonde 1. There's a lot more than one Evil Blonde.
Making it. Yeah, exactly. Or just in case there's going to be more in the future, she wanted to get in and make sure everyone knows.
Everybody goes, there's so many evil blondes in the world. If I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm this one.
Particular evil blonde.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is probably going to happen with the kid in Wisconsin. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look into the specifics of the state laws to see if he broached any by being too young or with the open carry nuances and whatnot. But in terms of the killings themselves, all the evidence I've seen points to being pretty clear-cut case of self-defense. So we'll have to see.
Can you walk me through that one again? Because I've got a couple. I'm not too sure which one it is. I've heard of.
So I'm not up to speed on all the latest details, but the general story is there were riots and basically quote-unquote protests in Kenosha because of the Jacob Blake, I believe his name was, the shooting you're talking about where the guy got shot in the back.
Yep.
He apparently either worked at a local business or worked with a local business, was in the city. He lived nearby in Illinois, but only about 15 or 20 minutes away because it's right on the border. And he was there like doing a lifeguarding job or something, and then he was actually cleaning up graffiti that was on one of these like statues or something. There's pictures of him doing this, and then stayed to like protect some of these businesses for these scheduled protests, but had an AR-15. So what led up to the exact first shooting, I'm not sure, but there was an altercation. It looks like somebody threw a Molotov cocktail or something at him. This one guy got shot. He tried to render first aid, it appears like, and then some people were like, that's the guy that shot him, and started chasing him. So he started running away, and there was at least 2 or 3 people that were chasing him. He turned around, one guy like swung at him with a skateboard, and he like tripped and fell down. The guy tried to hit him with a skateboard again, and he blasted him. That was one commie down. And then the other guy actually had an actual pistol and came up beside him, and he shot that guy and like mangled his arm. And that was pretty much the end of it. Then he got up and left.
Wow.
And so it ended up 2 people being dead and 1 being injured, the guy with the arm. But like all 3 of them have come out were convicted felons of various kinds. One of them being like an actual sexual predator. Not that that really would mean that it was or wasn't self-defense, but this wasn't like.
But there's some weight.
They're helping old ladies across the street with their groceries, and they just got blasted for no reason.
And that I find that exactly. You nailed it. I find that particularly interesting with the, I don't want to get into it, but some of the sexual crimes, sexual cases. I think if you've got a history, then that should be brought up to the court's attention. Now, if you're a woman and you've whored yourself out, 5 times a week to 3 different guys over extended periods of time, and there's an allegation of a sexual assault, your sexual history, I don't know. I'm torn on that. I don't. And I think I think it should be brought up.
I think there's something to be said for establishing a pattern of behavior. You know what I mean? If it's relevant to the case. So if you have a situation where there's an altercation, and you don't really know which of the people started it or may have been at fault, and you can show videos of one guy's screaming, shoot me, and he's a felon and he's done up property damage, and then you have video of the other kid cleaning up graffiti and lifeguarding and saying, I'm here to protect local businesses. I think you should probably factor that stuff into your assessment of the situation.
Yes.
What do I know?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, the guy that had the gun that attempted to shoot him was apparently a felon who shouldn't have even been in possession of that, and now he's got a mangled chicken wing. And the other guy who brought a skateboard to a gunfight his pronouns are was and were, as I've heard.
Oh, they were. They were.
No, it's a was and were. So they're past tense. They're past tense.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Gonna have to update his. Someone's gonna have to update his
Twitter profile. So I think that's a pretty political prosecution, and I think that he will probably walk on the murder charges for sure. On the like I said, the specifics of having a gun, being 17, everything, I'd have to look at the state laws. I don't know.
And he's white.
And he's white, right?
You know what?
Apparently he might be like part Hispanic. I'm not sure, but he looks white and has a white name, so that's good enough for everybody.
And it doesn't matter to the BLM crowd. And I hate to get political. I know we've been talking about this lately.
Yeah, but this is all preparedness. This is self-defense. This is civil unrest. Like this, you need to know what's going on. You know what I mean? Regardless of which side you.
Yeah, I think so. And you respect to the fact that this guy, let's say there's camera footage that caught sort of the everything. They're going to piece everything out from all the different stores in the area, and they could see everything that happened, or somebody just filmed the whole thing from a cell phone in an apartment building, and he's 100% clear. That won't stop BLM from being like, he's a white man and he got away with it.
Right. And then just last night in Portland, apparently a Trump supporter was shot as part. They were doing and killed and died, from what I can tell.
Really?
Yeah. They were having they were just standing by the side of the road, from what I can tell. Someone popped a shot off at him. It was like a caravan, like a rally, basically, to support Trump. So everyone was coming in from all over the state with flags on their trucks and whatnot. So, I mean, this just goes back to what I was saying. A couple of things like, why are you there? You know what I mean? Like, I'm all in favor of taking action, but are you going there to expose hypocrisy, to wave a flag? Like, you're literally putting your life on the line. You know. So you better be very clear, and you have to get some body armor. I mean, this guy probably got hit with like a 9mm or something. I believe it was a handgun.
It brings up an interesting point with a question we had some time ago about a gentleman asked something effective. What do you do if you're in the riot? What's your move? And maybe you can elaborate on this. I think I was suggesting that you failed as somebody that's into preparedness if you have found yourself in this position, why would you go to somewhere that could potentially explode with a riot and a protest? I guess you must really, really have a lot of passion for the movement, but I mean,
And I think
a
that's
lot of trigger
okay,
happy
but
people
you have
out
to be
there.
honest about the situation. You know what I mean? And that this is possible, and do some level of protection for stuff like that. So it's pretty
Yeah,
scary.
absolutely. And you know what? To be honest with you, there's a lot of guys out there. I met a lot of preppers in my day. And if I could take it back, I probably would be taking a more gray man approach. I would have
Yeah,
started my network or done the YouTube stuff. But there's people watching and they're sitting in the shadows and they don't post on Facebook. There's no pictures of their canned goods and all this other sort of crap. So I mean, if you want some advice in terms of taking it that extra mile,
mhm.
um, don't advertise that you're prep because it
Yeah,
makes you. Don't even advertise your political your stance because it's tough. People want to wear your Trump
right,
shirts and have the Confederate flag and stuff like that. I get it. You're proud,
right.
all that, but it does make you more of a target
Mhm.
compared to somebody that is just neutral. We don't really know if
Yeah,
which position politically the person aligns with.
yeah, and that's one of the things I mentioned before too, when people were talking about, oh, the polls are showing this or that, and are they accurate now versus 2016? I was like, even in 2016, people were reluctant to say that they were going to support Trump or voted for Trump because of the ridicule and everything. And now you're more likely to be shot or beaten because of it. So of course, people are going to be even less likely to be open about that, because you could be
Isn't that
literally
such a
risking.
stupid? And you were saying, I've got to Google this after. You said it was Portland, or somebody got shot last night, and
Yeah, Portland, Oregon.
like, look at the barbaric insanity that our species is going to. I believe this. I've got a Confederate flag, and I blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
It's driving people to murder.
Right.
It just seems very. We live in it's crazy times, man. It's crazy times. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Che. I'm with a channel called Prepper Logic. Thanks for joining us this evening. We are 20 minutes into a weekly show we call the Prepper Trifecta, joined by the
Sir.
awesome host Eric Lord Humongous. If you have any questions, all
Yeah.
caps in the comments section, that'd be great. And we're just talking world events right now. You titled this Protect Yourself.
Yeah. I think that's
What's
one of the things when you're looking at preparedness. We've talked before about, how prepping is pretty broad. Anything you do pretty much protects you against a wide variety of scenarios, like storing food. So many scenarios that helps with self-defense. So many scenarios. But right now, there are a few specific things, just like with the pandemic for the first half of the year or whatever, and now with civil unrest and riots and things, that we know these are elevated dangers compared to any random time. So you can focus on a few specific things too that might have just been general in the past, are now like, okay, this is much more likely to be an issue going forward, like having someone attack your car or yourself, or break into your house, or things like that. So the things that I recommend specifically for civil unrest are obviously get some kind of self-defense tools, whatever you can for your area. Whether, if guns aren't legal, get some sort of pepper spray. If that's not legal, tasers, bows and arrows, club, whatever. There's something, knives. There is always going to be some kind of force multiplier that you can use and carry. It just might not be as good as some others, but get the max level of whatever you can. And I would try to have some sort of non-lethal or less than lethal thing in there as well, because there's plenty of situations where you need to do something, but you're not yet legally justified for lethal self-defense, or it's going to be murky. So you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. For your house, I would recommend like storm doors or security doors. If you don't have those, bolstering your strike plates on your doors so they can't just be kicked right in, which is how something like 80% of burglaries happen, is people just kick in the front door. Fire extinguishers, because a lot of these people that end up burning buildings down, businesses and buildings, having extra fire extinguishers. And like I mentioned on Twitter earlier today, body armor. It's something that isn't as sexy as buying another gun or cool gear, but it literally could save your life. And it's about the price of buying an extra gun. So if you have 10 or 12 guns, you can't carry them all anyway. I really think people should buy some body armor instead of one more gun.
Good advice. Great advice. Not much I can compliment or add to that. I know for me personally, it's premature to be like putting storm doors and things like that around windows in certain neighborhoods and areas.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, I would sort of elaborate on what Eric was saying is if you're worried about home security, at the very least measure out and cut the pieces needed to cover specific doors or anything that's got glass on the main level.
There's also some security film you can get, which is really strong. It's almost like a giant clear sticker that goes over the window. Can't tell it's there at all. Doesn't make your house look like it has bars on the window or anything. But even for hurricanes or somebody throws a rock, the window will still break, but it holds it all together in one piece. So there aren't shards everywhere and the projectile doesn't actually get in. So it could still be busted in per se, but it keeps there from being glass everywhere. And if a Molotov cocktail was thrown in, it would explode against the window or a brick instead of going through it.
Is this a product specific, like for instances like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a security film. It's called, from what I can
film. Okay.
Yeah, I think 3M makes some, and there's various versions of it. It's just a really thick sticker, vinyl sticker or something like that. That's you just put over the window, almost like window tint, but it's really thick.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, and it's a lot less aggressive looking than bars or something like that,
Yeah, it would be. Speaking of aggressive, one technique, and I was going to save this for like a DIY project down the road, but I might as well share the concept with the crowd here now, which is, since we're talking about home security, one deterrent is a dog, and
big time
is something loud and aggressive. My concept actually goes way above just getting a real dog. I mean, if you can, that'd be great. It's a good companion, blah, blah, blah. Get out every day, exercise. But the concept I have, I'm going to build these. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to build them by the end of January. So you'll have to check out there you go, little plug.
All right, right on.
You'll have to check out my channel to see how I'm going to do it. It's a pretty simple concept, but I'm going to take, so just ramble here for 2 minutes, Eric, and then I'm going to go grab another beer. But passive infrared detector that's placed strategically around your door somewhere. So everybody has an entrance to their house. And my idea was to use this passive infrared detector to detect anything, anybody going up to it, to send a signal to a relay and maybe I'll get I was going to get a battery, but I'll just have some sort of unit that plugs into your wall and converts to some sort of 12-volt system with a large speaker. And I actually looked at the decibels the other day. We want about 70 or 80 decibels of a random track of a very large dog growling and barking for 10-second intervals. And I would link it up to a chip, or like an Arduino or something like that would randomize it. So it's not the same.
Right, not the exact same noise.
Yeah, it's a different sort of growl. We'll get it from like 20 or 30 different tracks. And 70 decibels, 8 decibels, you place it near your door. So if anybody comes close to your door, it would work through a window as well. It would trigger this speaker, this box, to just have this this animal that's just pissed. Yeah. So it would deter people from kicking the door directly, and I think just a concept I was thinking about. So if I'll put it on my channel one of these days. I'm just looking at I'm going to order the parts. I'm going to build one. There's got to be a way to delay it, and somebody triggers this. It powers this box with these random sounds, random dog barking sounds.
Yeah, that's definitely a deterrent, because I think every time they like pull cops not cops, like professional thieves and everything, they always say that dogs are a huge deterrent because it's just not worth it. Like, yeah, you can kill a dog, but you don't want to have. First of all, it sort of works as an alarm, where the noise makes people aware. If they're in the house or other people aware that something's going on. If dogs are barking off the chain. And physically you could get bit or something like that, which is obviously not going to be pleasant. So even because I've had I know it helps because I have a dog that's fairly mean looking. He's huge. His neck is literally 22 inches around, and he's not a mean dog, but yeah, he's massive. And when I've been walking him in the neighborhood, people would be like, "Well, that dog gets bigger every time I see him." Damn right, better stay away.
Well, you're sharing the steroids, right? Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got him. He's like a Mastiff Pit Bull mix. His name is Mongo.
Mastiff Pit. You got a photo of him?
Yeah, let me pull that up. This is him looking kind. He's just a giant. He's like looks like a pit bull, but he's like 85 pounds. So.
Oh jeez. Yeah,
I don't know. Can you see that? That's Mongo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't mess with that.
his neck is literally the same size as my thigh.
Wow.
But he's really just a big cuddle slut, but nobody has to know that.
Right. No.
When you've got a neck this big around. His head's like a fucking basketball. Big dumbass melon.
Yeah. Great deterrent. Do you have an example of your dog in Realta? Did it wake you up at 2 a.m. and you saw some, looked out the window and some people were, running down the road? And
a couple times, people will do something across the street or whatever at 2 or 3 in the morning and they'll start barking. So my girlfriend has a dog too, who is some weird old dog, but he's probably more likely to bite some random person than mine is actually. He's a grumpy old man. Right. But yeah, they'll bark it when people come to the door. Obviously, sometimes like you were saying with the laser, even before they knock, if they just come up on the step or whatever, or dropping an Amazon package off, they'll hear it, and start barking, which is cool. Right. Because I'm counting on that to wake me up in the middle of the night. If someone starts fiddling with a doorknob or something, I'm not going to hear that. So their barking is a good alert system.
Yeah, even psychologically too. I mean, just hearing that sound.
Yeah, hearing multiple dogs barking inside a place, like, man, what am I getting into? If I open this door, am I going to get this like mauled by like a whole pack?
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna be back in 2 seconds.
All right, no worries. Yeah, I'll read some chats here. See what we got in the chat. I saw that Mark Chase had said a skateboard is a deadly weapon. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is even a hand strike can kill you. And keep in mind that in the entire country, you have a right to lethal self-defense if you fear for your life or grievous bodily harm. So you don't have to necessarily think that you're going to die. I mean, that has to, if that's a possibility, always getting struck by anything, but even just getting maimed or something is enough of a reason for lethal self-defense. And I knew someone who had gotten sucker punched. One punch. They were just standing in a bar, someone punched them, and their eye is like permanently messed up. And you don't want that. And certainly a literal board with metal trucks and wheels and stuff on it, certainly enough to cause death or serious bodily harm. So absolutely, it could be a deadly weapon. MJ says or TDR says, my dogs are harmless but sound like Satan. Hey, that helps. MJ says, we put those door alarms on our doors that hang on the doorknob. Whenever the doorknob on the other side is touched, the alarm goes off. Cool. What's your opinion on phone books and stuff and such tape for ghetto body armor? That doesn't work. I mean, you go out there and shoot a couple phone books and see what you think about it after that. I recommend if you go to Safe Life Defense, which I've done a video before, and use RTW, just like Rule the Wasteland code, RTW, you get 10% off. They have panels that are about $100, and it's the same material as a bulletproof vest. That's a much better solution than trying to use a phone book. Like I said, how much is your life worth? If you don't think it's worth $100, well, I don't know what to tell you. And then it's only $90 now because you get 10% off. And yeah, and that stops up to 12 gauge slugs, 44 mag and blow, all your common handgun calibers, strikes, slashes, tasers.
I'm gonna have to order some stuff from your work, I think.
Yeah. So are those alarms vibration activated? Depends. If you're talking about the one Che was gonna build, I'm not sure. Like, you're talking about the one MJ has? There's different kinds, yeah.
What was MJ referring to?
CLM says, I think, an alarm on the door. CLM says, I think you guys underestimate what's coming. I'm not sure what would give you that idea, but possibly. I always try to, I don't think you'll have ever talk to a prepper who doesn't have it in the back of their mind that things could get just epically bad. That's the whole idea behind prepping. But at the same time, I like to look at things from a realistic and positive perspective. So,
give it to a CLM. What's going to happen? I want to see a paragraph here. What are we underestimating?
Yeah.
Trust me. I think we're a lot more prepared than we publicly discuss on a YouTube
Brian
channel.
says hi. What's up, Brian Hickenbottom? There's another one who shows up to most of these like Evil Blonde. Is body armor legal in Canada? No, it is not. Check the specifics, but I know for a fact that it gets purchased in Canada. I don't think you had, at least not completely. I don't know. I know in some countries like Australia, you have to be a security guard or have some kind of license for it. I don't believe that Canada's that case. Canada is that same. I know in the US, you just can't be a felon. So
I'm pretty sure it's one of those, if it is illegal, I'm not familiar with it, because I've seen it on classified sites with no specifics. Just checking a local classified site now.
yeah, if you're talking about Chihuahuas, you're underestimating things. I'm not sure. Are you referencing, what are you referencing? I didn't mention any Chihuahuas. But if you want to do some memes, it's 6:30. I've only got a few.
Level 2 body armor.
Well, yeah, it's level. I would recommend level 3A at least. It's not that much, almost any thicker than level 2, and it's significantly stronger. And 3A plus is really good.
We go with ceramic plate. Plenty available on a classified site here.
Yeah, you want to make. There's different levels of ceramic plates as well. They have up to level 4 exists, which is 30-06 steel core. Just to give people a brief overview too of different types of plates you can get. You can get either polymer, steel, or ceramic for rifle protection. And polymer is great for multiple strikes, very lightweight, but it's very expensive and can be bulky. Like we're talking like 3 inches thick sometimes, like big puffy plates. But they're really light to the fact that they even will float sometimes. They're great for multiple strikes, lightweight, but they're expensive and huge. Steel is the cheapest, but it's incredibly heavy. You might have like 20 to 30 pounds per plate, depending on how big it is. Also good for multiple strikes, but you can have spalling as well if it's not coated, where the bullet will actually fragment on the steel and shoot shards everywhere. So you have to make sure it has an anti-spall coating if you're going to go with steel. And you got to be strong because it's heavy as shit, but it is the cheapest. The ceramic plates are kind of a middle ground. They can handle multiple strikes, some better than others. If it's a monolithic construction, it won't handle it quite as well as if it has kind of like mini plates making it up, but they can handle multiple strikes usually, and they're the middle ground in terms of like weight and size. So they're usually pretty good, and same as price too, middle ground price usually.
At least plates, I know, like you can actually physically take them out and hold them in your hand. The ceramic, is there something encoded on the plate to indicate if it's, well, I guess if it was poly as opposed to mono, then it would be the actual section. Poly would be one complete piece, as you were suggesting.
Well, it's going to feel the same probably. You'll have to look at where you're buying it from, because like the old military, it's just going to feel like one plate. It'll be wrapped in some kind of canvas or something like that with the writing on it. So the internal construction is what you'll have to look at when you're buying it. Like the
and
old,
is there any encoding on the plate?
Depends on the company. Depends on the company. Probably not for that particular. It'll just say the threat level and things like that. It might not say whether it's monolithic or not. I'm not sure. The Safe Life ones are not monolithic, so they can handle multiple strikes pretty well, up to 30-06 steel core, which is pretty good. I know the old military ones we used to get issued were monolithic construction, so they would not be as good for multiple strikes because the whole plate might crack, from one strike and kind of compromise the structure. But they're only about, the ones at Safe Life are only about 5.5 pounds, so they're not really that heavy either. So, and that's pretty heavy duty level protection at 30-06, much more than you're likely to actually come across out there. Now those do need to be used in conjunction with the soft body armor to offer full level protection because of the back face deformation. Like it won't go through, but it might have up to 2 inches or so of like deformation out the back, which could seriously injure you if you don't have the soft body armor behind it. So
excuse me. Yeah, I think we're going to be in a scary place if we have to wear body armor for fear of a shot from a 30-06.
Yeah, but it's the 223 stuff is what most people want when it comes to rifle protection, because the regular body armor will protect up to most handgun rounds, but not rifle protection. So,
which is a whole other level. I mean, if people are walking around with big rifles, I mean, it's obviously a lot more easier to move guns around, and rifles tend to stand out a bit more for obvious reasons. I'm looking for this response back from CLM in terms of what we're not. So what did he say exactly, or she?
That we're underestimating things, I think. In the meantime,
I'm curious. Like,
MJ says, I'm not sure. Maybe it was to reference somebody else. MJ says, which websites are you guys having any luck finding 9mm ammunition? I haven't had trouble finding it available. It's just at insane prices. So if you go to, Evil Blonde beat me to it, ammoseek.com. It's an aggregator. It will always show you where there's ammo for sale. So you might not like the price, but if there's ammo for sale on the internet, it will show you there, and you can organize by price to find the cheapest per round. It'll show you the shipping. You can sort by if you only want brass case or if you only want hollow point or whatever. So it's a great website. I use it all the time. It's AmmoSeek, AMMOSEEK.com. You don't buy directly from them. It's just, like I said, it's just an aggregator, but they're great. It says, I have a couple of Desert Storm era flak jackets from Daniel Bailey. Good idea to keep or get rid of. I would hang on to them. Just keep in mind that they're not going to have the same ballistic protection as a modern bulletproof vest for the most part. They're just literally for fragmentation. They'll probably stop stuff like 22s and maybe even ricochets, and you might get a 9mm or something to stop like that. Who knows? But if their body armor does technically age out, like it has a service life, doesn't mean it's useless after that, but it's something to keep in mind. So if it's hanging in your closet, it's a better chance of working when it's old than if you were wearing it every day and the trunk of your car, sweating on it, all that stuff. But
interesting. Yeah, I guess that wouldn't be so much the case with if you had the steel.
Right, steel obviously, all the plates, steel, polymer, ceramic, all those are, from what I understand, don't have any real concern with aging. But
right, but
at least not to the same extent. Sean Penrod says, what do you think about 3A body armor? I think it's great. 3A is usually, like I said, up to 12 gauge and 44 mag and below. All your common handgun calibers, 9, 357, whatever. So it's fantastic. I think every prepper should have some. And Safe Life, it starts at, I think, $4.99. You get 10% off with RTW, so why not?
You should put the link in the chat so people can click it.
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, soft body armor. Gunbroker has ammo, same situation. Yeah, so that's the good thing is that I haven't seen it completely sold out on the internet, but it is extremely expensive to the extent that I looked at 380 auto. The cheapest 380 auto that I could find was 75 cents a round.
I haven't looked at prices lately, to be honest with you. I'm long overdue for a day at the range. But here in Canada, it's a lot different. We have our Bass Pros and Cabela's, and Elwood Epps is one in what do I want to say, Northern Ontario.
Yeah,
is usually where I go. That's the key stop off when I go hunting.
Well, they can you buy ammo online, like from the U.S. and have it shipped to Canada? Probably not.
I don't see why you couldn't. I don't think you can from the States. Maybe you can, but I mean, there's a real amazing advantage you guys have there. It's just free shipping for most of the stuff that you have, and then if you're in Canada, there's always a huge shipping cost. I've had rifles mailed to me, like directly. It's just in a box, and you sign a piece of paper.
Oh, because that's interesting. Because here we have to have it. You can't ship it unless it's to a licensed firearm dealer. You have to have a dealer license to get a firearm shipped to you.
Well, depending on the classification, that's probably be a different story. But you had to submit your information to the person on there. What was the company? I think it was Frontier Firearms, probably them. And you just show them your license. Right. And then they said, oh, okay, they look it over and then they ship it to you. And then I needed to show ID when I picked it up.
Cool.
That was some time ago though. So I don't.
Yeah, we do that basically. You have it shipped to a dealer, either a pawn shop or gun store, and then you just go there and pick it up, and they do the background check and whatnot. And in most areas, you're still able to do cash sales with other just citizens, but.
Yeah, definitely. A lot more tighter here, that's for sure.
All right, I got some memes. I got like 4 memes. That's it. Let's do it. We're just past the halfway point.
Yes.
So I'm gonna hit it. All right. Can you see it? It says, remember kids, don't bring a skateboard to a gunfight. And then next up we have, when someone brings a skateboard to a gunfight, you know the rules, and I'll say goodbye. Then you have this is from a goofy old anime. He's like, you're already dead. It's got Kyle's face on there. And then we have the comic cannot swing a skateboard if you disable his hand. For your Starship Troopers fans out there.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Wow, skateboard theme tonight.
Yeah,
that's good.
Little spicy memes for you tonight.
I don't think I've got any, dude. I don't. Unfortunately, not a lot of questions here too.
Yeah.
On the chat, everybody's just doing their own thing, which is great.
Right. Yeah. Cool. If you got any questions, let us know. What about coronavirus? How's that? What's that doing? I read an article that apparently the CDC has quietly not revised the coronavirus numbers, but they put out some data showing that like of the 160-ish thousand deaths in the United States, only about 9 or 10,000 didn't have like major comorbidities, with most of them having like 2 or more. So it just goes to show what we've been talking about, that for people who don't have serious issues, and just simple obesity is considered a comorbidity, which is a lot of Americans. Right. But if you're not obese, it has a vanishingly small chance of killing you. If you don't, be obese, advanced age, some other major health issue. But that goes to show you, like, why is forcing me to wear a mask or not open my business or whatever, you know, for the rest of the country? How does that help someone who's morbidly obese? You know what I mean? Like this stuff's been killing people by the droves before Corona came around. So that isn't that the real problem here?
Yes. And hopefully it's a wake-up call for some people that didn't really give a shit about their health.
Right. I mean, there was a leading cause of death anyway, so if that wasn't a wake-up call, I don't know if this
kind of hypocritical
be,
too. I mean, there are people absolutely right. You've got people that are smokers. You know, it seems hypocritical in the sense that, oh, you know, I need to, you know, my health, it's all me, blah 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 blah, and then they go and light a smoke after, or they eat garbage, and then there's this sort of obesity epidemic. It's scary that there's a reinfection rate. We haven't really talked about that, the reinfection possibility. It seems to be confirmed, and it was in the Netherlands earlier this week. So this means that, you know, I think we saw that coming, just like the second wave is going to come, quote unquote.
Right.
And it's here. We're here for the long term. I'm not too sure what direction it's going to go. Is this like what is the new normal? What was it? Do we double the size of every building so people can have these?
Right.
So we can accommodate 2 meters for everybody.
Yeah, are they going to make us be wearing masks in 2 years? I don't know.
Yeah. And here's one for you. I'm surprised we didn't talk about this. I should really take notes throughout the week. Like, that would be good. That would be good. That would be good.
Right. I need to as well.
Think about yeah, we're a little disorganized tonight. I am, anyways.
I definitely am.
It's the NBA because of this Jacob guy got shot.
Yeah.
And I think, now I'm just going to say this, and I want to get your opinion on it, but I think there's a lot of preppers tend to be on the right side. They tend to be conservative. They just want to be left alone. Don't tread on me. I get it. I'm there. Just let me do what I got to do. I think a lot of them are just sitting back and they're just watching the lunacy. They're being quiet about it. They're not out there looting.
Right.
And I forgot how I was going to connect that to the NBA, but anyways, the NBA, they didn't play. They're like, this happened, and we wish to transcend a political message by not playing.
Didn't they turn around and like they basically boycotted? They were in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. I don't follow NBA too closely, but then they basically said, no, we're not going to play this game. If I was the other team, I would have been like, that sounds like a forfeit to me. You know what I mean? I'm ruthless when it comes to anything competitive. So I'd have been like, are you showing up or are you taking the L? Because if I'm not mistaken, it was like because it was the Milwaukee team, I think. So it was the Wisconsin team that initiated that, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me, someone who actually follows NBA, but I think they only needed one more loss to get kicked out, I think.
Wow.
I think. Someone correct me, but if that's the case, I would be like, you're out of here.
Yeah,
but then, because then they came around and basically a few days later started back up again. So it was a really short-term thing. It almost struck to me like we need a couple more days here to prep for our game. So let's just come up with a reason, let our guys heal up, practice a little bit more, and we'll use this as a reason no one's going to argue with us. So that's kind of how it came across to me. Who is the best conference? Who has the best burger and fries in Vegas? Man, it depends on what you're into. A lot of people love In-N-Out. They have Five Guys out here as well. So there's a place called Strip Burger, which is because it's on the strip. Unfortunately, there are not strippers there. But that was really good, but expensive. I'm down with In-N-Out is cheap too, which is nice. But they need to get the people from Chick-fil-A to go and manage their drive-thru, because they have like 3 things at In-N-Out. They should be able to get people in and out of there like super fast, and it takes forever.
So In-N-Out isn't so quick.
They're not quick at all. You're not in and out. You're in, and then 15 minutes later you get out. They're busy though. I mean, that's why they're busy. But
Yeah, we went into In-N-Out when I was down there with Christy in California, and it was like, you know, what blew me away about California was there's
Yeah.
just, it seemed like every other corner was a fast food joint.
Yeah. You know,
I
it's a
can't help
depressing
you.
thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but I've been all over the United States. I've been to almost every single state. I only have 3 left on road trips and everything. And it's kind of depressing to go to see all these different towns. You roll up to it, like, what new interesting things am I going to see here? Oh, a Waffle House. Oh, a Chili's, a Dairy Queen. How unique. You know what I mean? Like all the
Really? Okay.
same crappy
It's all the same
chains
shit. All
all
the same
over
stuff.
the country. Someone else asked me a real
That's,
question up here I wanted to hit before.
we've got a real question. This is awesome.
Yeah, but it wasn't in caps. You got to make them caps so we can see them. Daniel Bailey says, "What's your take on EMS training or emergency medical services training for preppers? At one time, I was an EMT/B. I feel at a minimum you should have EM or ECA or EMT B level of training. I'm not too familiar with what the specific levels are, but I think it's fantastic. Any skills and knowledge is a huge benefit, especially medical or something like that. So basic first aid, CPR, any of that stuff is going to be a huge help. And if you go beyond that, even better, you know?"
Yes.
That's
Okay.
my thought on that.
I've
Yeah.
got my CPR first aid stuff. First aid, you've got to renew though on a regular basis. I got to be honest, I don't. I've got a lot of fish antibiotics, medications,
I heard they
things that are
changed the
stocked.
song because they used to say another one bites the dust, like boom, for CPR compressions for your pace, like boom, boom,
Is-
boom. Another one bites the dust, but like no one knew the song anymore because we're old now. So like I don't know
Right.
if they changed the song because I thought I heard that they
So
changed
it's
the song.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, right.
You smile.
It's now
I
WAP.
smile. Right. I didn't know that.
It's Cardi
Well, you might
B
as well
now.
go
Cardi
through the
B
pattern.
song.
What's the pattern with? Is that it? Just
Right. Well, there's the number of compressions too matters, but that was the cadence.
The main-
is the like 1, 2.
That was the
3.
beat.
Because you don't want to be like, and you also don't want to just do one every like 30 seconds. You know.
That's funny. That's.
I think it was like 5 and then breaths. I honestly don't remember. It's been so long since I've had any training or anything on that.
It's been a while for me. I got a lot of medical stuff in my supplies. I think that's.
If I'm not mistaken, it was 5 compressions, 3 breaths. Someone, EMT, Daniel, let me know if that was what it was.
A lot of preppers have a lot
of.
of.
Yeah, they said "Staying Alive" is the song now, but it's the same beat. Staying alive, staying alive. Ah, 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 ah.
It's the same beat.
I think I remember another one bites the dust better because it starts with the beat. Boom.
Is that the song you really want to be singing though? Because another one
bites. That's probably why they changed it. It's a little macabre. Another one might not bite the dust.
Yeah.
Oh,
that reminds me. Staying Alive was originally called Saturday Night, but for whatever reason it didn't.
Let's talk about prepper. Have you been to Idaho? I have. The ones I have not been to are Hawaii, Alaska, and North Dakota. I've been to South Dakota multiple times, Mount Rushmore, and a few other places, but for whatever reason, never made it up into North Dakota. How often do you do physical training? I try to do weight training. My neck like totally locked up on me for the past like week and a half, and I haven't done almost anything until today. But typically, I shoot for 4 times a week for weight training. I need to really get back into doing more cardio.
Yeah. Ironically, just picked up some weights tonight. I got my Bowflex here, but there's something about just having the real weights. You got to do something. You don't have to get ripped or anything, but yeah, cardio. I would go for a walk if you don't like running at least, and do some sort of resistance training or just have to be weights. It could be sports. I was going to say, like baseball or hockey or something like that, but I guess a lot of people aren't really playing sports right now, are they? Brian Hick, this is awesome. Brian Hickingbottom,
long-time viewer.
Right, I'm going to send more next time. Eric is awesome. Why are you getting all the props?
Appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. What's the best hand-to-hand? Oh, someone says Bunny doing okay, Che? Evil on 1. How's the bunny?
Yeah, he's okay. He got his cage clean today, and he's feeding the garden. I got to tell you, it's cool to get this experience. It's one thing that was really positive from the whole COVID was just getting into the gardening and really appreciating how to grow things, and it kind of turned into an addiction.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Well, I will definitely let
already all planned out.
Yeah, let's talk about prepping. I'll let you know if I ever make it up to Northern Idaho. We got what's the best hand-to-hand. I mean, you're going to get, that's like asking someone what the best gun is. You're going to get a lot of various opinions on it. But I do think that what's the best hand-to-hand combat, I'm assuming, what's the best hand-to-hand?
What style?
Yeah, presumably. Obviously, the best bet is to be a well-rounded fighter, but in striking skills, grappling skills, and submission skills. But if you just have to pick a style, there's a reason why Brazilian Jiu Jitsu wins basically all individual, like one-on-one competitions against untrained people. It's not even close. But is that how, to what extent that applies to like the street depends on the situation. You know, if it's one person, sure, it's always good to have those skills, but you might get kicked in the head while you're grappling something, like get stabbed in the back, but you know, it just depends. So my recommendation is always to get well-rounded skills. Practice both.
Well, I don't want to comment too much on martial arts, just it's because it's security related. What I would recommend is, well, learn to run. You know, if you're in a
running is the best self-defense.
Yeah, there's just too much craziness out there. People are getting shot for no reason, and there's no indication that that's going to change anytime soon. So,
yeah, discretion is the better part of valor, as they say.
Yeah. Nothing. Well, there you go. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We'll go with that.
What's your thought on a 7mm Remington mag? I know it's a well-regarded hunting round, powerful. Just depends on what you're looking for. So much stuff comes down with guns, and it comes down to preference. You know what I mean? Like you can kill a deer with a 223, kill, you know, if you need to. Some people think it's too weak.
Subjective.
You know, 308, 270, 7mm, 30-06, like any of the differences between those are just going to depend on preference. You know, if you prefer like flatter trajectory, you know, different things like that, and just what you like and don't like. Any can get the job done for the most part.
Sure, and then there's range as well. How far you know where you're set up if you're hunting. There's also a preference to an action or style of rifles, and there's shitty rifles out there. There's a lot of shitty guns out there.
Yeah, if you prefer semi-automatic rifles, you're probably not going to find many in 7mm Remington mag, you know, versus like a 308 or something. It'd be much more common. You know, so stuff like that depends what you're hunting, why you have it, what you want to spend on it, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then the price of ammo is a big factor as well.
Right.
Because, you know, you might.
Now, I will say, though, sometimes when you have run on ammo, the weird shit like that, like if you've got like a, I don't know, like a 6.5 Grendel or this, like some of these weird hunting rifles, not many people have those, so they're available a little longer than some of the other stuff, just because they're weird. You know, but
these oddball sizes. Yeah, good point.
But they're also harder to find in general, so it balances out. Maybe, who knows?
I think then I think it's like knives. I see a lot of different bushcrafters out there, preppers, and they show these knives, and some of them look retarded.
Yeah, and some of them are just weird.
But it is a subjective thing. Ultimately, is what it comes down to. Is that it's a very important survival tool, a knife. It speaks volumes to the type of person you're dealing with based on the style of knife they have, and it's convex, Scandi grind, but everything about it, the manufacturer. I will say that,
regardless of things like that, like general size, the grind, blade, you know, stuff like that. People who use knives a lot, if you look at all the different choices, the one thing they all have in common is they're relatively simple designs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's nothing fancy about them. It's just sharpened pieces. Like I said, a lot of that comes down to preference and what you're doing in terms of this type of steel, the actual, you know, grind, things like that, or just some of it's going to be preference. Sure. Some people would rather have a sharper blade that they sharpen more often. Other people would have one that's not quite as sharp, but holds the edge a little better, you know, or big, thick hunk that they can bang on versus a small thing like a, you know, Mora knife or something that they can do fine detail work. It's just a little Mora.
It's a great starter.
Yeah.
That's
They're
a beautiful
great for throwing into backpack kits and everything.
Yeah, the price is right too.
Oh yeah, you don't get any cheaper than that.
It's a fantastic.
But for the major, or not major, but for like a basic knife, survival knife, I like the Becker, the BK2, really thick, short knife, or even the Cold Steel SRK, really simple knife. Even the
Yep.
Glock knife is really great. I prefer simple, hard knife designs like that, like just really basic but sturdy.
Yeah, that Becker too. That's a good one too. It's a real thick. I think it's like a
Right,
quarter
super thick. Yeah, it's a big hunk of
quarter
steel.
inch
The thing with
carbon
those are they
steel.
have trash handles. You have to replace the handle scales. For whatever
Yeah,
reason,
well,
I
one
hate
I've
the,
seen it. What they do before is you take a piece of like tire
yeah.
from your bike, and if you could fit that over the handle, that gives you a much better grip with that
Well, I just
specific knife.
replaced it. I just got my cart because I have the BK9 too, which is like basically a machete.
Oh, the big one.
But
Yes,
I got the handles
that
for
before.
both, and
My card.
yeah, just fixes the problem because the ones they have on there are somehow simultaneously slippery and also chew up your hands. You know what I mean?
Right, like the original.
Right. The originals that come with them are just really basic. They don't look good. They're hard to hold on to, and they chew up your hand, which is weird. So.
Yeah, my Carta, for people that are watching this, is basically layers and layers and layers of cloth that are compressed together. And there's something about tops, and it looks like that K-bar has it there too.
I love tops. Yeah.
Is K-bar through tops?
No, I put these handles on. These were
handles.
aftermarket. These were aftermarket.
Well, that's good because there's my Carta that's been polished off, and it doesn't have that. Your hands slide off. It doesn't have that grip. But what Eric has there, maybe if you can show it again, so people can have a look. They've sandblasted it. They do something to their micarta, and I can't put my finger on it.
This is just after. I don't know who made these handles. I bought just the handle scales to add on to this.
I could see just from looking at it that it's sandblast, like something.
Right, it's got a little texture to it.
It wasn't polished, and it actually makes your grip stronger.
Which is what I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, your sweat, your everything will. I don't know how to explain it. You just got to try.
It's friction. It's a little better grip.
Yes, it's the superior grip. I played with a lot of knives, and my car is hands down the best.
Yeah, I do like tops a lot too. They tend to go with micarta. I really want
micarta.
They do
whatever Tops does with their micarta is the #1 hand material on the planet. Sorry, Eric, you were saying?
No, that's it. I'm just saying I want to get a Steel Eagle. I really like that design, but I haven't picked one up yet. They're not incredibly expensive, something like $180, $200, but just haven't got one yet.
Cool. Yeah.
I have so many knives. I can't. It's hard to justify spending that money on another one. You know what I mean?
Just I know. It's like guns. It's like guns. It's just like, well, it just becomes a collection, right? Sign off for tonight. It's been a pleasure. Be safe, Eric. Prepper Logic. Thanks, everyone. Okay. My name was highlighted.
Thanks, Tyler.
I read it.
Yeah. That's Ty. He has a channel on YouTube, Prepper, or Let's Talk. Was that Let's Talk About Prepping? Is that who you said it was?
Yeah, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he has a
What
channel.
part of Canada do you live? This is for me. I'm in Northern Ontario. Excuse me, just north of Toronto, rural-ish, and I'm thinking about moving. Actually, I don't know, getting tired of this place, tired of this town.
Yeah, moving within Canada.
Well, for now, and
you can come here once the riots are over.
Right.
It's a country breaks up. You can decide which section is the best, and then move there.
Yeah, Alberta would be the best. That's our Texas.
Yeah,
they're very right wing. Actually, in the last election, you could see bits of Ontario that were red and blue, which indicates either liberal or conservative or Democratic, Republican, right? In Ontario, it's a little blue here, it's a little red here, it's a little blue here. And then Alberta, like the whole province, through all the little towns, they're all blue. They're all very right wing. Yeah. Nobody voted left. Like,
so you do blue is right wing for Canada? Yes. See, we do the opposite on our maps. It's red is right wing, yeah. Like the Trump hats are red, and blue is Democrat.
That's okay. Yeah. Blue is the color that's. It is what it is.
John Bibb says, Eric, what martial art did you do in the Army? The Army Combatives program is based on Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So to what extent I don't do very many hours of combatives training in the Army. So when we would do the like the combatives little training, I would usually kick everybody's ass, which was fun because I did it on my own before that.
Cool.
But yeah, it's based on Gracie Jiu Jitsu. So they talk like mount escapes and things like that, positional, which is good,
I would, I don't really talk about security that much in general, but, to sort of complement what Eric was saying, I would suggest if you're getting into the martial arts and you're doing these sorts of things, focus on the practical things that are likely to happen, which is a scenario where somebody grabs you right here.
Right.
As an example, right? Deal with real life street fighting tactics and get yourself a handful and master them. There's a
Yeah.
thousand different katas and positions and all sorts of cool different little things you can do. But I would just keep it simple, keep it direct, right to the face, right to the. There's a lot of nerve endings in the face.
Yeah.
Right to the neck, things like that. 1, 2, 3 out. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3 out.
And one thing I always tell people too is if you watch even professional fighting like UFC or anything, doesn't matter what the style is, doesn't matter if you're the heavyweight champ, they get poked in the eyes, that's it. You got to stop, take a break. You can't make your eyes any tougher.
Yes.
So if you're in a life or death situation, that's one of the first things, even more so than the groin or whatever. Like you see the kung fu guys that take kicks to the groin. You never see a kung fu video where a guy's taking jabs into the eyes and it's just like no big deal. Doesn't happen. And you'll see a 270-pound, UFC champ poking guy. So first thing you should do. But if you're gonna do it, don't do the what is it, Three Stooges style like this, because you can hyperextend your fingers. So you want to use like a closed knife hand and slightly curve it. So if your hand collapses, it goes like that way, not like that. So you want to go like that and just both eyes. Just right in the eyes.
Yep. Or not even with your fingers too. It's always palm strike up to the nose. I mean, it's.
But the eyes, in particular, like that's the one thing that you don't even have to be particularly strong. They could be freaking enormous. Everybody's eyeballs reacts pretty much the same to that trauma, and it's disorienting.
Just like that same. Did you ever see 28 months later, the second one?
Yeah, 28 weeks later, I think it's the second one.
Oh, that's right.
It's 28 days later, 28 weeks later. Yeah.
28 days. Yeah, I'm skipping. I'm hoping they make a third one eventually.
Yeah,
I love the series. But
I saw that.
Where Buddy killed his with the.
Oh,
that was nasty.
There's a pretty good one in Game of Thrones too, where the guy gets his right before he gets his head popped.
Haven't seen it.
Never
watched one episode. I was talking earlier about the gardening. I want to share a security tip.
Yeah.
I'm giving away too much here. One technique that I have or could utilize is you want to get people used to the idea that you've always got a cup or you're carrying something around with you. And I've been exploring growing my own. There's one that I don't want to get in particular called Dragon's Breath, growing my own pepper seeds.
Yeah.
And I think Dragon's Breath is the unofficial, it's in the top 5 hottest peppers on the planet. So one cool thing you could do,
spicy stuff.
Yeah, just it just triggered to compliment what you're saying about the eyes.
Yeah.
Your stuff here, and there's no fight. You don't have to learn martial arts. It's just there's a confrontation. Guess what? Splash right into somebody's face with this hot sauce concoction that you've got.
Yep.
And I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah, you're done.
You're down for the count.
If anyone has a chance to ever watch the Boss Rutan, who was a pro fighter, he was a UFC champ at one point and everything, his Lethal Street Fighting DVD series is very good advice, first of all, for like life or death situations, but also freaking hilarious. He's got really good charisma and goes over all these scenarios. And he basically goes to like a bar and shows you like all the items you can use to fuck people up and like how you would do it. And he mentions the spice bottle. Like if you're eating and you realize that there may be an altercation, you can put a few drops of this stuff on your fingers or whatever. And then if you ever get into it, just smear it into their eyes. And they're
Nice.
Done for.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a great video if you guys have never seen it.
What's the series called again? What's the gentleman
It's Boss Rutan's Lethal Street Fighting. It's been around for a long time now. You can find clips of a lot of it on YouTube, maybe the whole thing, and it's just hilarious. It's very good advice as well, but it's a laugh riot the way he talks about it.
Cool. I might have to actually check that out myself. I know that Street Fighting.
I've got the file somewhere. I might be able to send you, but if not, it's on. Most of them are on YouTube. Most of the good clips are on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's legit.
Right.
I mean, he was a bouncer in like the Netherlands and stuff. Before being a pro fighter and stuff. So.
Excuse me. You'd think everybody would be cool there. Everybody would be high.
I mean, he seems pretty cool, but
I mean, like as a bouncer.
Yeah, right.
Hey, here's my ID. You cool? Like because it's all.
I will say the one thing that's really good about jiu-jitsu that has nothing to do necessarily with the techniques themselves is that because it's predominantly a grappling art, you can train at like 100% combat speed pretty much every session, at least for a little bit of it, without destroying. Like you can't box 100% sparring very often. You can't kick each other in the head. You know what I mean? So you get a real experience of what it's like to go against a 100% resisting opponent pretty much every time you're in the class. And that
Right.
that alone gives you a huge advantage for like real world situations versus like punching a bag and all of a sudden someone's in your face really trying to punch you. Like obviously you do real sparring and things too, but some gyms don't do very much of it. And it's hard to go 100% really trying to kick someone's ass boxing without just hurting each other. You can't do it very often.
Yeah, and
But
also,
right.
Sorry,
But
go ahead.
No, that's just it. That with the grappling you can, and that really allows people to make leaps and bounds in their progress a lot quicker than other styles. So I think that's often overlooked when people talk about, like, if you're talking about people who have mastered the art already, then yeah, maybe you can make an argument. When you're talking about somebody starting from scratch, that is a big advantage.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because especially women and whatever random dudes have never done athletic, even things like football or whatever, just wrestling with their friends. Like it can be a shock to you to be in that situation where you're really up against a fully 100% resisting person, you know, trying to manipulate your body, hurt you, throw you, whatever. You've never done it before. It can be startling. It can be panic, you know, it can be terrifying for some people. So you need to experience that. And that's one of the best ways to do it without really too much of a risk of getting hurt.
Yeah, in a controlled environment where it's realistically in a real fight, you're probably going to feel some degree of resistance. You're used to that level of resistance. Yeah, that's
yeah. And like I mentioned earlier in this live stream, martial arts are the base level. You always want to have force multipliers, not because you're like, well, I know Jiu Jitsu now. I don't need to wear my body armor. I don't need to carry a gun. Like even Frank Mir, who's like a Jiu Jitsu black belt's been UFC champ. He carries a gun and a knife usually. So 260 pounds of UFC champion Jiu Jitsu black belt, and he still carries his gun and his knife. So
good for him.
Let that be a lesson to you.
Yeah, as you should, because we are entering the age of the crazies, I think. And
judo is also fantastic. Sorry, John Bibb just posted that.
You know, there's lots of different styles. I don't, because it sort of touches on the security, and I just don't.
Like I said, all these techniques and styles are like tools. So there's no reason to say, you know what, I'm going to stick with the socket set, and I'm not going to mess with the nut drivers or the screwdrivers. Like if you can, you know, learn as much of it as you can.
Yeah, good sparring partners important, I think, as well.
For sure.
Actually.
Yeah, I've heard that the best gyms are the ones that have people that are way better than you, about your same skill level, and worse than you. And in those environments, you'll get the best progress. Because if you're only people better than you, you're constantly getting your ass kicked. It's hard to really experiment, try new things, and have it work. You get discouraged. If people are only competitive with you directly, then kind of the same reason, but you're never really going to get anyone who can teach you that much either. And if people are only worse than you, you're the best person there, then obviously you're not going to learn much. So, but you need all of those to be present to really learn, to have competitive matches, and then also to experiment, trying new things where you're not really in danger. So with lesser newbies. So.
Yes, it's and then there's private instruction as well, which is.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at that. Evil Blonde one says, now the nut driver is an excellent martial art. I mentioned nut drivers earlier. Yeah. That reminds me, have you seen Jane Silent Bob Strike Back? It's a really stupid comedy. Have you ever watched that one?
No, haven't seen it. I don't know how that relates to
Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, he has this bit part in it where he plays this guy called the Cock Knocker, who just has a giant fist. This fucking Ramsey in the nards. Hilarious.
Okay.
You're like, why do you call you the Cock Knocker? And he's like, well, it's a funny story, true story. Woo boo! Just like rails on so stupid. Oh man, I like stupid movies.
He did go through a phase there, didn't he? It's you know, he was trying to get whatever gig he could.
Right.
You know, like I remember seeing him dressed up as the Jester, the something or other.
The Joker?
Not the Joker.
Well, he did the voice for the Joker on that Batman animated series.
But he also the Flash. He was the.
Oh, in the Flat. Yeah, I didn't see that one. I don't think.
Yeah, it was, you know, it wasn't the Riddler or the Joker, but there's
third one. Some kind of approximation of that. Yeah.
Kind of funny guy, you know, psychopathic killer funny guy.
Right. Daniel says, when did you go into the Army? I asked if you know of MC Map. That's the new kind of like line fighting system for the Marine Corps, if I'm not mistaken, right? And instead of the line system, they they've moved on to the MC map or McMap or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but I don't know a whole lot about it or how it's different from the line fighting. But I think it's kind of using a lot of what like the Army combative system is using as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Here's the thing with martial arts. If you get really, really good at a martial art, it doesn't really matter. Or in some degree, it does matter, but chances are you're going to do pretty good against your opponent if you take it seriously in your practice.
Against an untrained opponent, you're going to be. But I just always recommend that people practice at least a little bit in the different phases. Like if you have zero grappling training, there's a much more higher chance they're going to be put in a weird situation that you're not good at, even if you're insanely good, like Muay Thai fighter or something like that. If all of a sudden all you have to do is fall over and you're as good as anyone else, it's not necessarily the spot you want to be in, and vice versa. If you say, I can grapple the fuck out of someone and choke two people out at once, whatever, but as soon as someone starts punching me, I'm like, you know, and I have to get my hands on them, then you're just as helpless in a lot of situations too. So well-roundedness is always better. But the point that if you're a master of a martial art, you're going to be kicking some ass regardless of which martial art it is, usually.
Excuse me. Eric Che.
Yeah, go ahead, read that one. I was just about to.
The most important thing to have I'm just going to say, assume that means in SHTF situation.
I know my answer.
What's the most important thing to have? We should write this down like we used to.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's write it down.
Okay.
Wait, I got to find a little scrap of paper. All right, here you go.
Rock, paper, scissors. We got to have, aside from the classifieds and the buy and sell in the chat, we should incorporate some sort of like gambling betting system.
Right. You ready? What's taking so long?
To have something so people can gamble. What's Che?
Yeah, right. Obviously the bets coming in. People, hey, passing money around.
What's the most important thing? Does it have to be a physical thing?
Well, I mean, mine isn't, I guess. I kind of don't want to give it away. So no, it doesn't. It's anything.
Okay, if yours isn't, then mine. Okay. Number one, hands down.
Number one. You ready?
Yeah.
It's the rule of waste and survival fishing kit. No. 3, 2, 1. Your wits and state of mind.
Okay.
So,
same difference.
Same answer. Yep.
I think that's pretty close.
That's pretty close. Yeah. Because there's gear can fail or be taken away from you. But like knowledge or state of mind, or your wits and your state of mind. Yeah, literally the same answer.
It could have been more just like to have a positive state of mind.
Right, and I didn't even necessarily mean like a base of knowledge. Like your wits is to be able to stay calm, positive state of mind, and problem solving, way of thinking.
Sure,
Right.
Positive psychological.
So you could even just get more specific and say a state of mind or a psychology geared towards problem solving or survival, basically. Whether that's not panicking,
Here's the funny thing with that is we could take a scenario with somebody that's got some basic training, survival skills. Maybe they took a Tom Brown tracker course for a weekend and whatnot. Put them in the woods and then put somebody else in the woods with very little training. And the state of mind is going to be the predominant role with respect to their survival initially.
Right.
And I'm sure there'd be scenarios like that where the person with very little training would survive as opposed to the person with the quote unquote some skills because of your psychology.
Right.
This isn't evenly Green Berets. We'll tell you, this is 80% psychological. Survival's 80% in your mind.
Right.
It's a no-brainer.
Yep. Yeah, ability to stay calm, figure things out. All that's super important.
Yeah. So the next question I would have for that is, okay, well, what can you do during a survival situation to sustain a relaxed state of mind or engage into your brain psychologically to relax yourself? And there's all sorts of things you can do. It could be a photo that you've got laminated under your boot with a picture of your loved one, or breathing is the most immediate one that I practice.
Right.
We can talk about this another time, but there's certain things you can do which actually calm you down.
Yeah, you mentioned meditation and things before as being super important for So we should bring that up as one of the topics on, because that's something that I have zero experience with. So it'd be interesting to go over that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's, the funny thing is, people are always thinking, what's my state of mind going to be? Excuse me. SHTF situation, it should be now. The people
Right.
practicing, if it's not meditation, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's something that has a direct connection with engaging the mind, yet disconnecting from everything else. So
Yeah.
YouTube, Facebook, social media, Instagram, and doing something on it, I would say, a daily basis, at least.
Yeah, I also think that as important as being able to control your thoughts and basically calm yourself down in stressful situations is the ability to not be too complacent in everyday situations, to have situational awareness in what would otherwise be a completely boring, almost mundane situation. You don't want to necessarily get into a PTSD type situation where you see danger behind everything, but you want to realize the potential and be aware of things that when they're starting to happen. And
Well, I'm curious, interested if you're into this too. With that said, because there's some people, they're just sort of hardwired this way, where I go into a restaurant and I'll sit in a particular spot strategically, take note of the exits, take note of all these. It's just, I don't know what it is. I'm just wired that way. Are you the same way?
I'm exactly the same way. I've joked about it before, saying that I have pre-TSD because I've never had a traumatic experience, but I still have that, like, this guy's walking up beside me, does he have a wet, you know what I mean? Or like you said, like sit in the back of a restaurant. And it's not a fear, it's just a realization that like, this could be like, I'm making a choice about where I'm sitting. Why not at least base it on something that could potentially make a life or death difference? Yeah. Like tactical parking, things like that, like all these little things that just, so I'm 100% like that, probably to a ridiculous extent a lot of times, but.
Well, no, I think I'm at a ridiculous.
Not nowadays, but just.
I memorize license plates of vehicles.
I've done that too. Like, this guy might be acting weird, so just in case he does something, I'll have his license plate ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I've said. Well, I was gonna say one of the things I use is I run dash cam all the time when I'm driving, and because the dash cam is great at showing a wide field, but it's not that great for like small. They have to be pretty close to actually read the license plate off the dash cam video if you didn't know what it was ahead of time. But it records audio too, so I'll just read it out loud, and that'll be on the dash cam audio then. So I'll be like, X34 809 if I think that it's something weird might happen. And that way I don't have to remember it. It's basically written. And I might remember it anyway because I said it out loud and everything. So if the video is compromised, somehow I still might have it in there. But it's easier than writing down while you're driving, and then it's recorded on the dash cam audio too for later.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought about
definitely I'm like that for sure. So it'd be interesting to take a poll of preppers to see how, because obviously recognizing a potential outcome or cause and effect is necessary for someone to be a prepper. That something bad could happen. This is why I'm preparing. That has to be there to some extent, or you wouldn't prep. So it'd be interesting to see to what extent it's in everyone's daily life, and like we're talking about.
Yeah, and to me too, it's not even about remove the preparedness aspect. I'm an individual, and we're entering into the crazy land. Whatever restaurant or place that I'm going. So. What do they say? 1 out of 100 people or 1,000 people is psychotic or whatever.
I've heard as high as 3%, depending on who you ask. Like 1 to 3% have sociopathic or psychopathic tendencies.
Sociopathic tendencies, violent tendencies, or whatnot. So you know what? I'm just wired in such a way to strategic driving as well. Strategic, everything is not not an expert at any sort of defense strategies necessarily, but there are things you can do in your day-to-day life to enhance your security, your personal security, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not speaking to you, Eric.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
In general,
I totally agree. That's something that I think people. One thing I noticed too. It's interesting that you brought that up because I was talking about traveling the United States. All over. And I normally would do that where I'd evaluate someone walking up, especially in public or a stranger, to see like, okay, what's this person about? Would they be a threat, whatever. And not in like a weird, scared way, but just in the, be nice, be polite, have a plan to kill everyone you meet kind of way.
Yeah.
And in these big cities like New York and Boston, where you're just walking through crowds and crowds of people constantly, it was like mentally exhausting because
Yes.
my brain was
Yep.
trying to do that with every person. And I was like, shit, no wonder these people eventually just put their headphones on and walk around. Like, you can't do it here. You can't do it. Like, just you'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa. It was like playing a high speed, like crazy video game, like Tetris on full speed, like, ooh, trying to
Yes.
do that with everyone. I was just like, I gave up. I can't
And
do
it was
it.
overstimulus. Oh, I know
Overstimulus.
exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about. It's just
Yeah. It was
way too
weird.
much.
And it made me get
Yeah,
like
just like
weirdly
so many.
aggressive with like hobos and stuff who would approach you, and all of a sudden you realize then like, okay, this might be one of those people, and they'd be like, ah, get the fuck away from me, kind of thing, because then you realize almost a lot later than you would.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a weird experience.
I know this is probably, well, I'm not going to say that. I'll just say this much. When you're talking about sizing up too, unfortunately, we have to categorize very quickly to make an assessment based on
Right.
any number of things, the proximity of fast a person's walking. So it's just purely from a security perspective, you're looking at, how's this person dressed?
Right.
What is their facial expression? What is their, okay, like, is this guy 6'2" and ripped? Is he, or is it some overweight senior citizen?
Right.
Which there's
Exactly.
still degree. There's calibrating multiple factors in the risk assessment based on all these micro interactions.
Right.
So I totally understand about your suggestion. It's just exhausting being in public because you're putting that circuitry in overload, basically.
Right, when there's crowds and crowds of people like that.
Yeah.
And it'll happen too sometimes, like down on the strip and stuff. But for whatever reason, I think in an area that I've been to before, it's less, because at least the physical geography and whatnot I'm familiar with. So I'm not having to evaluate the area, just the people. But in a place where I'd never been before, and it was way busier than, I mean, it's New York City and stuff like that. So it's insanely, crowded with all sorts of weird people and stuff. So it definitely was where I noticed it the most.
Yeah, even above that too. I'll do it. I guess we'll throw this into the situational awareness category. I mean, there's different ways we can split it up, and it's interesting that we could definitely have to talk about this in the future, but also taking mental notes of different, that's a diesel vehicle there, which, or this is such and such here, in terms of being advantage. There's a firearms store in the corner there. I'm trying to think of a way to
recognizing stuff like that. I mean, it's weird to me how people sort of just miss random stuff like that. Because I was thinking about that with regards to open carry the other day, where in general, I absolutely think it should be legal. I prefer to conceal carry when possible, just so people don't know. But there's certain situations it's a lot harder to conceal carry various firearms. You know what I mean? Just in general. And I like that out here it's legal. And I really like that people don't seem to care that much out here. I've seen multiple people open carrying in Walmart and whatever, and no one seems to care. And I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, I wonder if people just don't care because it's Vegas, or if they just don't notice even. And she's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, did you notice that guy? She's like, oh no, sorry, I didn't notice it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Really good point.
You know what I mean? Like, they literally just, to me, it's like instantaneous. I see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of people.
But you're also sizing everybody up.
Right, exactly. I'm looking at everyone from head to toe anyway, not for any particular purpose. It's just, maybe see if they're hot or not, whatever. But okay, gun, whatever. And so maybe a lot of people just literally aren't even noticing, probably.
I would guess that's the case. I mean, I'm trying to think of these scenarios with, what's his name? We had a comedian up here, Tom Green. He's hilarious.
He's great.
He had this skit, and he had a bike and he mangled it. He took this bike and he mangled it and he put it on the side of the road, and he took his helmet and shifted it. And he put some fake blood on him, and he just he stood there confused. He was just staring at the ground.
Acting like he's all fucked up.
Yeah, he's all fucked up, and people are walking up to him. They're like, "Hey man, you okay? You okay?" And he wouldn't even make eye contact. He would kind of look around, and
like he's totally concussed.
Yeah, like totally. So it's just amazing to see how disconnected he portrayed, how people reacted, whatnot. But I'm sure there were people that probably even ignored or drove past that and didn't register in their brain.
Right.
So if you're talking about somebody that's potentially in a life-threatening situation on the side of the road, and there's 10 cars that drive by that intersection, guaranteed not everybody in the car is necessarily going to see it. Just like they're not sizing anybody up. most people are just, they're on autopilots. Their behaviors, 90% of their actions in the day are autopilot, subconscious actions that they're taking. And even most interactions aren't even very real too. So absolutely, they're not noticing.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that, but I had to consciously think about it, like, you know what, they're probably not even noticing, because to me that's ridiculous, but not even because I'm some like super, Sherlock Holmes type, but it's just very obvious to me. It's just like a big gun on your hip. Like, how do you not notice that?
You play with it. Play with the theory. Put like a pink dildo or something in your pocket. Find out how many people come up to say, "Hey, is that a pink dildo?"
Right. What is that?
Yeah. What is that?
Or they just give people handing me their numbers and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, man. Hey, give me a call.
Yeah, exactly.
You can report back next week.
Right. Yeah.
So what's Eric investigates huge prepper trifecta segment.
No, but I have decided to open carry more here just to see what the experience is like. In general, what I would be worried about is if there was a situation where someone came into a store and they were planning on doing something, they see you before you know that they're going to be a potential, so they could shoot you in the back or try to grab your gun or whatever. Like if you're in a gas station picking out ho-hos or ding-dongs and, someone comes in to rob the place, maybe they would just leave and they're like, oh shit, these guys have guns, but they might just shoot you first, so in general, I'd rather not have people know, but I absolutely think it should be legal. And I do there's certain, like most concealed carry holsters don't have active retention, which I do like, they just based on friction and things like that, but.
Sure. Okay. Don't know. We don't have it here.
It's just easier to just put a holster on your hip when you don't have to worry about concealing it. And hip carrying is the most comfortable too. So.
It's a very taboo topic here. That's for sure. Like Canadians generally don't talk about it.
It's not the same.
I don't even want to go down the pipeline. I mean, the rules are just so batshit crazy. It's retarded. Some of these regulations they have. They're trying to take them all too. We got a 2-year amnesty. Well, I think it was
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
No, we're going to ban. Oh, well, we talked about this before, but
Colorado Biker Prepper says riding a motorcycle forces you to pay attention, have very good situational awareness, and transit's over. Yeah, and I've had motorcycles before. I sold mine right before moving out here, which I shouldn't have done because now I miss it dearly. Definitely need to get another one, and I really, really enjoy riding motorcycles.
It actually came across my mind because what happens is people are driving vehicles and they're conditioned to look for other vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And people like me and Eric, we see everything on the road. The motorcycle, it's a man on a tricycle. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, like, what the fuck is that guy?
Yeah,
there's a guy on a unicycle that's always by Red Rock. It baffles my mind that people would not notice a man on a unicycle when they're driving. What the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, next week is going to be with the bowling.
His own pink dildo hanging out of his pocket.
Yeah. I wonder if that becomes a thing now. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
A bunch of people taking dildos.
Yeah.
Walking around Walmart.
They should make the next version of the D-cell mag lights like flexible and pink. So it's like a big heavy flashlight. Like silicone, and you're just like, whoa. Then the cops could be like, what are you doing in there? This big floppy pink thing. Slap it against the window. What are you doing?
Yeah. We got to make it as friendly looking as possible, right?
Have you seen Idiocracy?
I haven't. What's that? Show or movie?
Oh, it's a movie, and it's absolutely hilarious. It's the same guy who did King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead and all this stuff. But it's a live action movie about this guy who's completely average intelligence, like right at the top of the bell curve. Nothing remarkable about him. Not stupid, not smart. He gets accidentally frozen for like 500 years, and then when he wakes up, he's the most smartest person in the world because everyone's decreased. So like all the stupid people have millions of kids and smart people don't. So he's the smartest person in the world now because everyone's so completely retarded. And he gets arrested for something and goes to Monday night rehabilitation where he has to drive this like monster truck, or it's like this tiny little car in monster trucks are chasing him. But there's just this big giant like pink dildo attached to the top of it, and it's like slapping the windshield. Fucking hilarious. You gotta watch that movie.
All right, I might have to check it out.
Yeah, it is a documentary of the future, sadly, of how stupid everything is. The most famous show in the future is "Ow, my balls," and it's just this guy that gets smashed in the balls like repeatedly.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. On that note,
Yeah, right. It's a
Ow, my
dystopian
balls.
documentary. Yeah. Colorado Biker says, I'm strongly in favor of mandatory firearms retention training to get a concealed carry permit. Probably makes sense. I mean, I don't think there should be a permit. I'm in favor of constitutional carry nationwide, but it's definitely something that is a good thing to train and practice. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Brando. Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
We got a concept here called axe and prove, which is just trigger off, muzzle control.
Right.
There's just basic concepts that you go through, and I think some sort of basic training would be to show a level of competency.
What I would be in huge favor of is everyone always, because when I talk to anyone who's not in favor of gun rights, I'm like, why are you allowing, like, you don't care that police have guns, can open carry wherever, courthouses, how, and they're like, oh, well, they have training. And I'm like, I would go through police training at my own expense if you would give me a cert and say, okay, and then you would shut the fuck up and let me have the same right to carry as police. You know what I mean? Let's do that then. If that training really makes it okay, let's give it to people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pay for it myself, you know?
Yep. Yep. I think they're, in their eyes, perhaps they're thinking, well, police have it and they were hired, and this isn't necessarily right or wrong, but for some people, they probably think that generally speaking, police must do the right thing, or sort of, they've got 1,000 lines of code to abide by if they pull their gun out,
Right.
1 million reports and all sorts of things. So where, I don't know if that would necessarily be the case with the citizen.
It's probably an outdated argument anyway, because now all those people are saying defund the police. So
yeah, which is a very weird concept to me. I'm still trying to, I don't understand where it came from.
But in all those videos where they get self-defense shooting, they're always like, call the police, call 911.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Eric, I got to call it.
I do too. I didn't mean to go this long. I was trying to just go an hour.
It's cool.
Fantastic.
Yep, a pleasure as always. And yeah, I think I'll get some memes for next week and have some more pointers and things like that.
We have some guests and whatnot too. And like I said, check out.
Definitely have a guest on for next week.
Subscribe to Prepper Logic YouTube channel so you get his upcoming videos, and check out rulethewasteland.com. And if you do want to pick up some body armor, check out Safe Life Defense. And if you use RTW, you should get 10% off. So thanks for stopping by, guys.
Yeah, thanks very much. Have a great night, people.
Yep.
Thanks,
See you guys.
It was good.
Yep.